Hiya, Five. You've watched the little clip now of Iain Green inspiring you to take your own photos, but let's have a look at some of his photographs. These are all of kingfishers and have been taken near to his home, which is not that far from Bristol. This one is thought to be one of the only photographs of a kingfisher asleep on a little twig. He used to take photographs overseas and in places as far as Uganda, where he took photos of gorillas, or India, where he shot tigers. Shot not with a gun, but with a camera. You say you shoot photographs when you take a photograph. But he realised that he couldn't really justify the big carbon footprint that is flying, taking lots of aeroplanes to places when they emit so much carbon, and therefore started taking many more photographs from closer to home. During a little workshop that he gave to teachers to inspire us to help you guys take more photos, he talked to us about how you can slow right down, get children to really observe something as simple as a dandelion, which he said even adults had come to him and said they hadn't quite realised that this and this were not two separate plants, but were in fact the same species. But yeah, taking a series of photographs across a period of time lets you see exactly what that species, what that flower gets up to. This is a water vole. Look how sweet it is. So he said, in order to get us to help you, he said the first thing is to get right up close. Look at the contrasting colours between the flower and what's inside. It's a little caterpillar curled up. The closer you get, the more detail you'll see. He suggested using natural filters, letting the light come through the wildlife itself, so the subject itself. Here you've got different leaves layered up and the light coming through. Think about taking photographs at night and how different that what different effect that might give. This is a thin sheet of ice. You might not be able to see it quite, but you can create a sheet of ice, or if it were winter, find it in a puddle. So this picture of a kingfisher was taken by a child in a school in Herefordshire or Hertfordshire. And he's worked in schools closer to home because this is a group of children from Begbrook, also in the Cabot Learning Federation. And they took photographs of this kingfisher. And they managed to stay so still and so calm and so quiet that they didn't disturb the kingfisher. And in fact, the children had to leave before the kingfisher was ready to leave. Iain gave us a quote saying, "Let us allow children to love the earth before we ask them to save it." Now, we've spoken quite a bit about climate change and what it means to look after the planet that we live on. But we need to give you guys the time to look at and enjoy the world around us before we can ask you to take care of the world, conserve the world, and think about big issues such as climate change. He said that you can take photos on a phone, a tablet, or a compact camera. If you don't have any of those, you can even use a magnifying glass or a sketchbook. Take time to look at the ordinary things. So this is just a regular little fly, but with the right lighting, so taken at night, with all of that shadow going on and the light coming from one light source, it looks like a really powerful image, doesn't it? He said, get right down to eye level. Look at things from the animal's perspective, or that little species, whether it's a lizard or a ladybird. Imagine what it's like to be a ladybird looking up and thinking how far you've got to climb. Take a different view on things. He talked about the foxglove, that if you look at it from way up high, it can look tiny, but get down on your hands and knees and look upwards, it looks like a bigger thing altogether. A big skyscraper of a flower. Do be careful though, foxgloves are poisonous, so if you touch them accidentally, then wash your hands after. He suggested that you don't use the zoom function on your camera. Instead, take a close-up photo and then zoom in on your photo later on. Okay. Think about the seasons. So we're asking you to take some photos this week and send them in. Of course, we're into summer now, but enjoy a single specimen of tree and take photographs of that tree across the seasons and see what happens. He also talked about life cycles and how much we can learn by studying things. Did you know that this little fella, funny spiky looking orange and black thing, is actually a ladybird? There he is. It is the early stages of a ladybird, a baby ladybird. And think about going out in all weathers. What about when it rains? What wildlife can you enjoy when it rains? Look at that dragonfly. Beautiful. The droplets themselves add something else, don't they? Oops, didn't mean to go on. Okay, how about writing a story to accompany the wildlife photography that you've done yourself? Use frames, so either a natural frame, and the children that he was working with thought that this looked like a dog or a horse, or create yourself a frame. Take a piece of paper, cut it out into a shape, a butterfly or a bird or a flower, and then use that, hold that over the top of whatever it is you're taking a photograph of. In this case, it's a strawberry patch. His website, if you want to have a little look at it, is www.wildlifewonder.co.uk. You've got some other ideas to make use of on there, and you've got a little bit of a wildlife spotter, or help to spot what different species are. These are some of the photos that I took, inspired by Iain Green. We went out for a walk just today, Sunday, and found... what did we find? So we found shield beetles. You can't see that closely, but it's funny that the part that's most in focus on my photo there is my son's fingerprints, as opposed to the shield beetle itself. It was quite frustrating getting a close-up, getting so close and finding it was out of focus. So this little guy here, this green beetle, this must have been the third photo I took of it, but it was only the third photo that was actually in focus. I'm not so good at identifying butterflies, and some of these bugs and beetles I hadn't seen before. I tried the foxglove trick and got right down low and took this photo. And this little guy, again, I think it's the same species of beetle as this one, but I just really thought that the orange stuck out. It really caught my eye in amongst this spray of white flowers there. And there's me in a tree that's hollowed out in the middle, but there's plenty of life left in the tree. And it was amazing standing in there and just listening. And in fact, Iain Green says that himself. If you stand and listen to the wildlife or the effect of the nature that you're in amongst, then that can be the starting point for your inspiration for what you might end up seeing or feeling as a result of being in amongst nature. Okay, so your task today is to take some photographs of your own, and then you're going to send those photographs in to us, and I'll share them with Iain Green himself, and he can give you feedback in much the same way as you did when you were doing your collage. And in the same way, some of you got some really, really wonderful feedback on that, including Neil, who Jane suggested his collage was worthy of a GCSE, which is a higher level examination that you'll take later on. Okay, so I hope you're inspired. Take your photos and send them on in. Bye.